Good morning. Welcome back into Wake Up America. Former President Donald Trump back in New York at the office of New York Attorney General Letitia James for a deposition yesterday as part of her $250 million fraud lawsuit against the former president. James also campaigned on bringing down Donald Trump, just like Alvin Bragg. But this case, just like Alvin Bragg's case, is weak on the merits. Take a listen.
Will you sue him for us?
Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. He's going to know my name personally.
All right, for more, let's welcome in former prosecutor and constitutional law attorney and Newsmax contributor Ameer Benno. Ameer, this is the case, basically. She's alleging that the Trump team basically inflated the value of properties to get better terms on loan deals, which to me sounds like something anyone would do. Let alone the former president who runs a multi-billion-dollar business before he took office. Take us through this case. And Trump, by the way, he said yesterday that he wants to testify if this thing goes the distance. Do you see that happening, Donald Trump on the stand?
Well, good morning, first of all. You know, he testified yesterday for 7 hours almost, and that's a complete about-face from what he did last time in August, I believe, or maybe it was October, when he was brought in before the Attorney General, when he invoked his right to remain silent and said that he wasn't going to testify. And he did that about 400 times back then. So what has changed between then and now? Maybe Donald Trump realizes that, look, I'm under all of these criminal investigations. In fact, I have an indictment against me. You know, every stone is going to be unturned anyway, so I might as well speak. And so if that's the case, then yes, maybe he will, in fact, testify. But what's interesting is this case is going to go to trial in October, which is going to run with the same schedule as the criminal case that he's just indicted on. Remember, that case is not on again until December. So the criminal case will still be pending at the time that he's going to be making the decision whether to testify in the civil case. Now, it's a completely different set of circumstances, Rob. It's not the Stormy Daniels situation. Like you said, this has to do with how he valued his properties. And at bottom, I think it's very ridiculous for anybody to suggest that a bank making a loan is just going to take Donald Trump at his word instead of doing its own underwriting and evaluation.
Ameer, I want to welcome in former New York Congresswoman Nan Hayworth. Nan, good to see you. Happy Friday to you. And again, when you look at Letitia James and Alvin Bragg, we're talking about two fairly obscure politicians from the state of New York going after a former president for the first time. This has never happened before, on cases that on the merits. We'll see what happens. We'll see how it plays out. Ameer just said this case that we're talking about will go to trial in October, about a year out from the election. What do you make of that, and just what that says about our country right now and where we are?
Yeah, the political divisions are bitter. Rob, the stakes, obviously, for these two Democrat politicians in the state of New York, Letitia James, A.G. James, ran on getting Donald Trump. I mean, Alan Dershowitz, of course, wrote his book on that basis with that title. And obviously, you know, Letitia James was elected in the state of New York.
Right.
So clearly there were voters who were moved by this. There is a deep antipathy toward President Trump. I think it comes from many directions. I think one of them, obviously, is that this is a man who has stood up to what increasingly is evident as a hegemonic oligarchy within this country that wants to take all the power it can from the citizens. And Donald Trump, when he was president, stood against that, and he stood against it in a very forthright way. Yeah. He has made a lot of enemies, and we see the power of the state being mobilized against him, and it's a warning to all those who would stand against the forces of government that this is what awaits them.
And here's what I've kind of seen. If you're way far to the left you know, if you're watching MSNBC exclusively and not watching Newsmax a la carte, at least to get the other side of things, you're happy about this. You're thrilled that Donald Trump is going through this process. But if you're somebody that's a little more in the middle, you know, maybe you voted for Barack Obama, maybe you voted for Donald Trump. A lot of people like that out there. Reagan Democrats. I think you're looking at this and it's just making you angry. I know it is to me. And I think there are a lot of people out there that are like that don't know the details of all these cases because it's tough to keep everything straight. Bill Barr, Donald Trump's former attorney general, talked about that yesterday. Take a listen.
The New York cases, both the civil case and the latest criminal case, I don't think they have any substance, and I think they're brought for political reasons. But that doesn't mean everything that Trump does, he's a victim on. And I said he's frequently his own worst enemy, and he digs himself holes, and he does some things that are reckless that are clearly going to give rise to investigations and look into them. And that included both the documents in Mar-a-Lago and the January 6th episode and the events after December 14th and trying to reverse the election when all the states...
Ameer, what do you make of that?
Well, look, Donald Trump definitely is not out of the woods yet with his legal challenges. And I think that, you know, the fact of the matter is he might be creating more problems for himself. I wouldn't even focus on Donald Trump. I would, you know, let's look at what Jim Jordan has done and this interaction between Jim Jordan and Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg suing Jim Jordan to prevent this former assistant district attorney, Mark Pomerantz, from being subpoenaed and to prevent himself from being subpoenaed. Normally, it's the Republicans who would be arguing that the federal government doesn't have the power to bring to intrude on the state and local governments,
Yeah.
you know, principles of federalism. But here you have Republicans doing that, saying, no, we're going to pull in what's clearly a political prosecution. Everybody sees that with Alvin Bragg, but it seems like things have flipped a bit. And I can see, like you were saying, Rob, more neutral-minded observers being frustrated with the Republican Party and with what Jim Jordan is doing and trying to drag a district attorney, regardless of how politically motivated that prosecution is, down to Washington to answer to the federal authorities.
All right, we got to leave it there. Good points. Ameer Benno, Nan Hayworth, have a great weekend. Thanks so much for being with us this morning. We appreciate it.